to today's Conversation Cafe on the Lowcountry Recycling Update. Thank you for joining us today. Just to begin, my name is John Brooker. I work with MUSC Sustainability. We work on a variety of initiatives across campus, including energy, water, waste management, food, transportation, climate, and green building, as well as resilience. If you want to hear about more events like this, you can sign up for our newsletter at musc.edu/gogreen. You can also find us on social media under the tag MUSC Go Green and on Yammer if you work at MUSC. A couple housekeeping notes. If you have questions during the session, feel free to put them in the Q&A panel if you don't mind, as opposed to the chat panel. That way everyone can see them. And please ask questions to all panelists as well. And we will take questions after all the presentations, but feel free to put them in put them in while we're talking. The way to access that, if you're on mobile, if you click on the bottom of your screen, there should be 3 dots on the menu, and you will click on that to open the Q&A panel. And then on the desktop version, you should see on the bottom right, there's a little block there for Q&A, and you'll just click this little arrow, and it should open up. And with that, I will pass it over to our panelists. Today we have Christina Moscas with Charleston County. We have Sarah Smith with Berkeley County. And we had Sloan Reeves, but due to some technical issues, he has to rejoin. So hopefully we'll have him back later. He's with MUSC Recycling. And to begin, we're going to have Sarah Smith talk about Berkeley County recycling. And Sarah, you should have the presenter privileges now.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to talk with you today about recycling. I'm the recycling coordinator for Berkeley County. I'm also the Adopt a Highway coordinator. And I'm also the Keep Berkeley Beautiful director. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me or call me. Sometimes for more complicated things, it's better just to call me. So can everyone see my screen right now?
Not yet.
I can't.
Is it not up there?
It looks like the audience can, though.
Yes.
Oh.
There's something different from yesterday up here. Maybe if I can go ahead and start talking, but or just to keep talking. But let me see if I can go through it. Okay, through a different way. Here we go. This might work.
Oh, great.
Yes, there we go. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties on my side.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and start with the presentation. So this is just a brief explanation for everyone, just in keeping it simple. Of course, everyone knows what reducing is. That's the most important thing that we're trying to do right now. With the recycling markets the way that they are, reuse, of course, is the next priority. And then if we can't do the reducing or reusing, of course, we want to recycle. The next one, of course, we should recycle to preserve our natural resources. That's the top one. Our landfills are filling up at, a high pace. So we want to reduce the amount of waste going into the landfill. And obviously, too, we can make money off our recycling as well. There are valuable commodities still out there, mostly paper products and metal products. But, depending on how people sort things out, there can also be money made with other types of products. So for Berkeley County side of things, we go through the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, and we're trying to get to their goal to recycle 40% of or more of its waste and reduce municipal solid waste disposal to 3.25 pounds per person per day or less. So for fiscal year 2019, we only had a recycling rate of 12.46%, which isn't great. But, we're looking also to improve that. But the good thing about it, we only had a disposal rate of 2.87 pounds per person per day. So at least we're below that average, which goes under the reduction category. And also, that, makes a lot of sense. So in Berkeley County, the things that I can recycle are paper. Those are also valuable commodities right now, both newspaper and mixed paper. Steel and aluminum cans. Let me see if I can do this one. Those are also valuable commodities right now. Cardboard with a lot of online ordering, very important. We also encourage people to compost at home or their business or at schools. Those are very important. So we distribute a lot of information about that. We don't sell or give out any of the compost bins. But again, we do have, the option to be able to give you a lot of information about that. We also recycle used motor oil and filters. The filters go to diversified recycling. The used motor oil goes to Santee Cooper. They burn that for electricity. So that's a way we can recycle something that's not valuable at all. We recycle antifreeze at our convenience centers. Electronic scrap, we get a lot of questions about that. Residents, this is strictly for residential use, can dispose up to 5 pieces of electronic scrap per trip to our convenience centers. So that would be things like computers, TVs, printers, monitors, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that they would need to visit one of our 9 convenience centers to recycle. Appliances and scrap metal, of course, refrigerators, TVs, dishwashers, all types of appliances. Tires, you can bring up to 5 per day per resident to any one of our convenience centers. We don't want the tire piles to end up on the roadways or in the woods. So we would prefer that residents take those to our convenience centers. We have disposal options of tires for distributors at the landfill. But again, tires also can be disposed of at our convenience centers, where we take that to a recycler, Ridge Recyclers. You can also recycle your lead acid and NiCad batteries. We've got 9 convenience centers scattered all throughout Berkeley County. If you need more information about this later, I can give you that. They do ID at all of our 9 convenience centers now, so you do need to be a Berkeley County resident to be able to visit any one of our 9 convenience centers. We recycle, at our recycling drop-off sites now, we exclusively have mixed paper and cardboard recycling. So we have some at Goose Creek, Hanahan, Macedonia, and in Moncks Corner. But those sites are open 24/7. And again, these mixed paper and cardboard are only things that are able to be recycled there. What's big for Berkeley County right now, and what I do get a lot of questions about, is the Repower South facility. It's a mixed waste processing facility. It's located on the landfill property, however, is not owned by Berkeley County. They lease that property to Repower South. I encourage you to take a look at their website. They've got a lot of information up there. All of the residential waste coming from Goose Creek, Hanahan, Daniel Island, wherever the franchise area in Berkeley County, wherever it's coming from, goes to the Repower South facility. The Repower South facility, they separate out the plastic, number 1, the PET, the plastic, number 2, HDPE, the cardboard, mixed paper, and metal from the waste stream for recycling initially. So it's a very automated process. I have gotten a tour of the facility. I do recommend that you, if you haven't gone on a tour of their facility, it's pretty amazing. So they're not able to recycle plastics 4 through 7, but they can mix that with the contaminated cardboard and mixed paper. That material is flaked and sold to cement kilns as a substitute for coal. The reason why we still have our recycling drop-off sites for cardboard and mixed paper is so that they can drop that off in an area at Repower South where it's a cleaner area, so that material is more likely to be recycled than flaked into material. Because if you're pulling the contaminated cardboard and mixed paper out of the trash bin, say that's mixed with food waste, they're not going to be able to recycle that material that is going to be flaked. So that's a good alternative. However, we want to see as much recycled as possible. And then that's basically all that I have right now. If anyone has any questions about that, I guess we could take those later. We can take those now. What do you think?
I don't see anything yet, so let's just, if you guys have questions, put them into the Q&A box right here, and I will address them at the end, but we're going to pass it over now to Christina with Charleston County.
Thanks, John. So I'm happy to be here today. My name is Christina Moscas. I am the program manager for Charleston County Environmental Management, and there are a vast number of similarities in what we do with our recyclables to what Sarah just mentioned. Everything she said with the processing, the markets, that information is very similar. Obviously, there are some differences in our program, so I'll just give you guys a brief overview of Charleston County Environmental Management and what we are currently doing with recycling and kind of what we have going on right now. And then again, we'll kind of answer questions at the end. So basically, we handle all of the recycling in Charleston County. We service around 140,000 single-family households every 2 weeks with our single-stream recycling program. We also have a multifamily recycling program where we service condominium complexes and apartment complexes, which if you live in or around the downtown area, you know how prevalent those are becoming. It seems like there's a new one popping up every week. We also have a commercial recycling program where we partner with everyone from universities like MUSC to large businesses like Boeing and Bosch, as well as small businesses like local, coffee shops or offices to provide our commercial sector with recycling. We also service schools, both private schools and Charleston County School District schools. We actually service 100% of CCSD schools, which is a great, mutual partnership both for the schools to be able to correctly recycle that material and for us so that we get, the revenue from that recycled material and we don't have to pay the disposal costs at the landfill. And the last thing I want to mention with our recycling programs is our special events recycling program. We provide technical assistance to large event organizers so that we can help them figure out the best way to mitigate waste at their events. And we also have, on a smaller scale, a program where we can lend out they're called Clearstream event recycling bins, and they're great for small to medium-sized events to facilitate the collection of recyclables. Our department also manages the landfill in Charleston County, the Beast Area landfill. We also manage 8 staffed convenience centers, which are similar to Berkeley County's convenience centers in that they accept MSW, so regular garbage, as well as those items that can be recycled, but that we don't want to see in your recycling cart at the curb. So like tires, batteries, electronic waste, hazardous waste, motor oil, things like that. And again, if there are questions about what specific items can be accepted at those convenience centers, where they're located, hours of operations, obviously all that can be found on our website, or I'm happy to answer those specific questions. We also have a number of unmanned drop sites that are just for standard household recyclables only. So those items that, are accepted in your recycling cart. And then the last thing I want to mention is our compost facility, which we're actually working with a third-party processor, McGill Environmental Services. This is a kind of new thing with Charleston County. We entered into a partnership with them back in July, and it's a great partnership because we're able to, gain revenue from the compost where we haven't in the past. And McGill is also able to offer our compost for sale at a number of retailers just to make it a bit more available to the public. So all that being said, I will kind of just briefly mention what we accept in our program, which is pretty standard. I mean, I always tell people just think about standard household recyclables, things you can buy in a grocery store, and those are the things we want in your cart. So that means paperboard and cardboard, plastic bottles and containers. A lot of people ask about the numbers, and my kind of general rule of thumb is
I can't hear Christina anymore. Give me 1 second to see if the connection comes back. All right, well, this is just the fun of doing some virtual events like this. Yeah, so if you have questions for Christina, just put them in the Q&A panel, and when she comes back, she can address them. Let me text her just to let her know that the connection was dropped. But yeah, in the meantime, please put questions in the Q&A, and if she doesn't come back in a minute, we will pivot over to Sloan with MUSC recycling. We'll give it in a minute or two. And Elizabeth Fisher, I see, is putting in some questions. So we actually have it set up that the camera is only on for the panelists. And that we're going to have questions come through the Q&A panel. That's a great question, Jamie. I am very curious about the compostable plastic-like products, and we deal with that at MUSC. You know, it's kind of a question of education, and really trying to get people to look at this seemingly plastic-looking material. Let me see. Hey, Christina, can you hear us? Oh, there we go.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. What's the last
It's all good. The last thing we heard was you were talking about how you guys accept consumer products, and you were talking about like items you could buy at the store, and then you were going into the recycling product numbers or the polymer numbers.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if you guys heard me say this or not, but we've completely gotten away from the little numbers on the bottom of plastic with the recycling symbol around them. Those generally don't speak to an item's recyclability. They just indicate what type of plastic it's made from. On the backside, when the remanufacturers flake it down and melt it so that they can correctly categorize each type of plastic. So we have, like I said, completely gotten away from the numbers, and we just share information on the fact that we accept all plastic bottles and containers, regardless of the type of plastic that they're made from. So we also accept glass bottles and jars, and aluminum, steel, and tin cans. And the biggest challenge that our department is currently facing, I'm sure, Sarah can probably speak to this as well, but one of those bigger challenges is contamination. So contamination basically means sorry, I'm trying to look at the Q&A as well. Basically, contamination is any item that's not accepted in Charleston County's recycling program. And the tough thing about it is that, in general, 99.9% of everything can be recycled, but just because it can be recycled in some form or fashion, that doesn't mean that we necessarily want it in your Charleston County recycling cart at the curb. So we see just, crazy items come into our facility to be sorted. And a lot of them are, somewhat innocuous, plastic bags, things like that. But some of them are, a little more of an issue. They create processing issues. They can, break the machinery. They can also cause worker safety issues. A good example of that is like we had a metal frying pan come through and hit the rotors of the sorting equipment and actually shot itself out and cut a worker's forehead. So that's why we want to avoid contamination in the recycling carts. And I think a lot of it truly is wish cycling. someone thinking, okay, well, this bag of golf clubs, they're metal. I'm going to put them in my recycling cart and just hope that they get recycled because they're metal. But in reality, that just creates so many processing issues for us. So it's just so important right now to make sure that you are recycling correctly. And also, kind of to piggyback on what Sarah mentioned earlier, we're all have pushed the thought of almost thinking about recycling as a last step. Try to kind of do what you can to reduce your waste initially. Reuse everything you can. And then if you can't do either of those things and you still have items that can be recycle them, but just try to think of some other options initially before recycling. So I know I've seen a couple of questions pop up about Charleston County's new recycling facility, which I'm sure a lot of you know, it's definitely been a long time coming, but the facility is actually almost completed. We did a walkthrough the other day, so all the processing equipment is in. We've got really some super cool state-of-the-art processing equipment. We'll be utilizing robotics and just all sorts of neat things. We'll be able to process vastly more material than at our current facility. I think our current facility is able to process maybe 3 to 5 tons an hour, and the new facility up on Palmetto Commerce Parkway can process up to 25 tons an hour. So huge improvement there. We'll also have a very large education center at that facility. We won't currently be offering tours, but it's definitely something that hopefully around the new year we will be able to kind of entertain and come up with a path for moving forward on that. So I think that's all the information that I want to share. I know there are some questions, and I think John had mentioned that we will get to all of those at the end.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Well, with that, I think we'll transition. There are a lot of great questions coming in, and we will get to those. We're going to have a short presentation from Sloan Reeves, who's with us today with MUSC's recycling department. How you doing today, Sloan?
Yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate that. Thanks, Christina and Sarah, for sharing about y'all's programs that the different counties offer in this area. Of course, my presentation will be more targeted towards the MUSC campus and teammates, both on campus and off campus. As John said, my name is Sloan Reeves, and I am the University Solid Waste and Recycling Coordinator. I currently have a team of 4 people that takes care of all of our on-campus buildings, which are up near about 150, as well as our off-campus clinics and other office support areas in the Tri-County area. A lot of people think that we're kind of like EVS and custodial teams, to where, we have, a certain amount of teammates in each building or in each hospital that serves that one building. So I would like, the people on the call to understand and learn that that's not the case for recycling. We are a couple of teammates short, and we're trying to replace a couple, but right now we have 4 that's doing the entire enterprise. Those 4 people, my team, what we collect on campus, we collect confidential and non-confidential paper. We have different types of bins for the confidential and non-confidential paper. And all the different materials, including paper. We have routes that are built up, daily routes that are built up to where my team collects these different types of materials. But we have daily routes, and we do all of our buildings on campus and off campus on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. All paper that we collect on our campus gets shredded. Sometimes there's a lot of question about whether we only shred confidential paper or not, but any type of paper in any kind of bin that my team collects goes through one of our shredder trucks. And then after we shred it in our truck, we take it to a local vendor in North Charleston called Sunoco. And then, of course, that material is valuable, and sometimes, most of the time, depending on the market, we get a kickback for that shredded paper. Another material that we collect on our campus, we call the stream PGM, which stands for plastic, glass, and metal. That can be confusing to some people. Of course, we want the plastics that have been spoken about by Berkeley and Charleston counties, your normal water bottles, drink bottles. We do not, accept like single-use plastic bags in that stream, soft plastic in that stream. That stream is supposed to be more of a hard type plastic. The glass, we're looking for like glass jars, baby jars, those types of material. We're not looking for any kind of broken glass, window glass, or anything like that. And then the M stands for metal, and it's a little confusing, but what we're looking for in that stream are like your aluminum cans and stuff like that. And Christina's kind of looking at me really good, with Charleston County, because what we do and what I refer to a lot is on our campus, when my team collects from all of these bins, we have a Charleston County compactor on our campus, and whatever we put in that compactor, since it's Charleston County's, it goes downstream to them and their existing MRF or their new MRF that they have. And so basically what we collect and what we put in there should be the items that they want to be collected, which again go back to like mostly your household type items, the items that you could buy at a supermarket, a Walmart, those types of things. We do get a lot of wishful recycling on campus, but that's why we're here today, to try to educate a little bit more about the materials that we pick up. We also collect batteries. We have a particular route once a week on Tuesdays where we collect batteries and toner and e-waste. All of that material kind of ends up in different areas. Our batteries, we have a vendor on state contract that comes to our campus and collects our batteries and takes them further downstream for recycling, as well as our e-waste. And then we have a toner program set up with one of our companies that we box up the used toner and send it back for them to recreate something with it. Also on our campus recycles cardboard. However, my department does not collect the cardboard or paperboard on our campus. That's actually the EVS custodial team's responsibility for that building. And we just ask that the boxes be broken down or flattened, and they're supposed to be placed next to your normal trash can for the EVS team to remove. One other thing I'd like to say, material that we collect and that we offer on campus is called Rose Room Supplies. Rose, R-O-S-E, which I believe stands for Reusable Office Supply Equipment. And we're talking about general office supplies that are in pretty good condition that can be reused by another individual instead of just being thrown in the trash, possibly ending up at the landfill. These Rose Rooms are located in PG1, the library, basic science building, and clinical science building. There is a way for you to put in what we call a fix-it request, which is basically a work order for us to come and remove this material. So if you use the fixit.musc.edu app or call the 24119 number, my team will come and collect that material and actually deliver it to one of these rooms for possible reuse. Off campus is a little bit different than on campus. We might have some of those audiences or both of those audiences today. On campus, we offer everything that I just spoke of. Off campus, we do not. Off campus, we mainly only do our paper collection. We will provide different bins for recycling and try to help set up some collection services at each location. But as far as my team, we will only go and service paper at the off-campus locations. That's about all I have down that I kind of wanted to cover as like general operational things that my team does on campus. I know there'll probably be some questions, so we will wait for the Q&A session.
Great. Thank you, Sloan. That was some great information. And kind of on that same point about recycling right and not wishful recycling, I would definitely want to point everyone to making sure that you're checking out the websites of your county, or in the case of MUSC, that's actually at our Horseshoe intranet, which is an internal offering, and that's where you can find out what is recyclable at MUSC and all the things that Sloan talked about, things like where the reusable office supply exchange areas are, and all that. So with that, I'm going to transition to the Q&A session. I wanted to introduce, I forgot at the beginning to introduce Rachel Whitbeck, we are very lucky to have an intern this semester, and we'll be kind of passing questions to the panelists. So I'm going to start with a question that I saw in the Q&A from Terry Lynn about any update on glass recycling or bottles, and I assume that would be to Christina or Sarah. And Christina, you're on mute.
I was going to say I can speak to that just briefly. So we do still accept glass in our program. We use it for a variety of different things. A lot of it is used for alternative daily cover at the landfill. Some of it is used in roadbed construction. The price of glass, Mr. Sarah can agree with this, is just very, very low right now, which is why a lot of municipal programs have actually eliminated glass from the list of items that they will accept. But I can tell you at the new facility, we do have special glass sorting equipment. So it is something that we anticipate continuing to accept in our program moving forward.
Going off of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say at Berkeley County, unfortunately, we're not able to, Repower South is not able to recycle the glass because of the lack of the value of the commodity itself. They are hoping to in the future once glass prices increase, but at this time it would cost more to recycle that than it would be to, purchase the virgin material to make new glass. And unfortunately, we don't have a facility close by anyway that we could transport that. Because with all types of recycling, you have to look at transportation costs, who's getting this, where's it going? And we want to make sure that, it is being recycled.
So while we're talking about glass, we can address Elizabeth's question, mainly directed towards Christina, but Sarah, if you have any thoughts, you can interject us as well. So Elizabeth was asking to elaborate on how you'll be handling the glass at Palm Parkway.
Right, yeah. So that's a great question. And to be honest, I don't have the complete answer to that just yet. Like I said, all the machinery is in, but there is going to be a third-party processor who will be operating that machinery as well as marketing and selling the commodities. So I don't have a complete answer, but Elizabeth, if you want to reach out to me, I'm sure our contact information will be provided at some point, and feel free to shoot me an email. And as soon as I get more information, because I think a lot of it's going to be, with that processor who will be working at our new MRF, it'll be kind of a learning curve, for them, learning about our program materials, what they, what we have a lot of coming in, and then for us to just learning the new machinery and figuring out how different items are processed. So shoot me an email, and I'm happy to follow up with you once I get more information.
She's also wondering if private haulers in other counties will be able to drop at POMCOM.
So I believe not initially, but that will be a decision made by the third-party processor. So again, I just think it's one of those things that once our facility kind of officially opens, which they're telling me we should be processing material completely open by the end of this year, hopefully within this month. So once all of that is done, then I think there might be a possibility for us to entertain third-party material.
Cool. And then the last Elizabeth's question, what is the frequency of collection for businesses downtown with the new capacity of PalmCom?
So we don't have any plans to change our collection right now. We provide a once a week collection to all commercial businesses located along our routes. With the exception, we do have a part of King Street just that's heavily it's just like a heavy bar and restaurant area right there on like Upper King Street that we do service 5 days a week, mostly just so that we can pick up all of the loose flattened cardboard that they don't have space to store for the once a week collection. So again, we don't anticipate that the frequency of any collection changing at this point.
Great. Thanks for that. And if you guys have more questions specifically about glass, maybe reach out directly to Christina just so we can kind of touch on some other important topics. But moving on to Jamie's question, and this is something that Sloan and I worked together on this as far as messaging, and we've seen this pop up as an issue for us. But she was wondering if there's been an increase in issues with compostable plastic-like products that a lot of businesses have switched to with the city ordinance for sustainable products. So I guess this goes to both Christina and Sarah, and Sloan, you can speak to this too if you'd like to.
I mean, we haven't seen any issues with that. I mean, I will say, I think with everything going on with COVID, I think a lot of the regulations with the ordinances have been relaxed somewhat. I think they're scheduled to kind of ramp back up January 1st. So like I said, we haven't really seen any issue with that, but definitely something to keep in mind moving forward.
Great. Actually, in addition to that, have you seen, or is that something you guys are thinking about with the new facility on how to handle that material? Because I think that might be, sorry to interrupt you, Sloan, but yeah, we've seen some of that in our PGM streams, which eventually go to you. Some of those PLA containers, the compostable plastics.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some of it kind of depends on whether it's made from a 100% plant-based material or if it does have some sort of plastic in it. A lot of them are like a combination.
I'm not sure if Christina's going to come back or not while she's in pause mode. I wanted to kind of come back and talk about compost a little bit regarding our campus, because we're very proud of our compost efforts on the MUSC campus. For the last few years, we've been doing back of the house composting, meaning food scraps coming from our kitchens in the back, after they prepare or after they have leftovers or what have you. And then my team, also, we have about 30 bins located on our campus in high volume food areas. To where we have compost bins for food waste and compostable material. And we're very excited about being able to collect that food waste and that material and try to keep it out of the landfill waste stream. And I'm happy to say and announce that we're also creating a new waste station for our art cafeteria. Should be coming online between now and the end of this calendar year. The waste station is going to be for our post-consumer sorting of trash, sorting of waste, and we're going to have, plastic bins in this station. We're going to have compost bins in this station, and of course, regular landfill trash. But it'll give the consumer a chance to sort out their waste, their food waste, and the compostable material that our campus partner Sodexo has spent a lot of money in the last year or so on purchasing higher dollar compostable material, which we're talking about. So it'll give the consumer, again, a chance to sort that trash in the right bins so that we can even increase our weight from going to the landfill. So I'm very happy to announce that. And actually, hopefully next year, we'll be doing the same kind of new waste station for our university cafeteria, which is our main cafeteria on campus.
Great. Thanks for that info, Sloan. That was great and good timing as well. I'm not sure, Christine, are you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So basically, just to wrap up what I was saying, I mean, we don't have any plans to process that material at our new facility, but I will say, I think that with the compostable serveware that's now being used with more frequency, I think that messaging and signage is going to be key there to making sure that people are putting it in the correct receptacle. I mean, there's no point really in spending extra costs to purchase compostable serveware if it's going to end up in the recycling stream or the landfill. I mean, the ideal purpose for it is to go to composting. So we want to, just do our best to kind of ensure that that happens and it stays out of the other streams.
Nice. Our next question is from Bobby regarding plastic recycling conspiracy formed by the industry. So his question, he's wondering how much is actually being recycled.
How much material in general is being recycled?
Yeah.
So everything does, come to the facility and get processed. I mean, in complete transparency, there are always items like the contamination that I mentioned earlier, just items that come to us that are not recyclable.
Dang it.
We're almost there.
Sarah, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, so I can jump on that real quick. Every year, South Carolina DHEC puts out a solid waste management for each fiscal year, which is a great thing. You can just Google that. It'll break down each county as to recycling rates and what's being recycled. The only issue I feel like with this is that all recycling is not regulated as far as the same way that trash is. So again, we get, I send out a recycling survey every year to as many businesses and industries as possible, but they're not required to report that information back to me. So within that, they have, everything's broken down as far as what's recycled, how much is recycled. It's more of a tonnage base than an actual, percentage, other than, I was just looking at the, for fiscal year 2019, what was in a recycling bin. And I think for the state of South Carolina, they said that plastic only compiled 4.8% of the total recycle bin. So I know that it depends on, if that recycled item, PET obviously number one, and then HDPE number two are very valuable commodities once they can be separated out. The other commodities, the numbers are not as valuable, so they're less likely to be recycled. But again, it's, we do what we can, and, like I said, not everything is guaranteed. And then also, since we deal with Repower South, they're actually a private company, so everything that they report to me is the total tonnage. They don't break down the county that it's coming from, because right now the Repower South facility is still getting in a lot of the Charleston County recyclables to their facility, but they haven't broken down that material for me, to show that this material is coming from Charleston, this is coming from Dorchester, this is coming from Berkeley, and the material separated is just kind of a total amount that they recycle. So we don't have quite that, because Berkeley County doesn't own the facility, we don't have quite as much clarity as Charleston does in that respect, since they own their facility. Great.
Thanks, Sarah. Christine, if you want, you can try to jump back in on that. Just talking about, what percentage do you think of I think this person was interested particularly in plastics, like how much actually gets recycled?
Right. So obviously, the number 1 to number 2 plastics, because we separate them up, according to type at the facility and bale them up together. So certain plastics are definitely more valuable, and then anything that doesn't fall into a certain category of plastics, we bale and market and sell as other plastics. And there is still a market for those plastics. It's not quite as valuable as some of the other numbers, but we are still able to, actively process it and sell it to be, manufactured into a new material. But, the point I wanted to make is that we make every effort to recycle as much material as we can, to recycle everything that comes to our facility. But there's always going to be that level of contamination of items that get sent to us that we just can't recycle. And unfortunately, we do have to end up landfilling some of that material at certain times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of non-valuable plastic and something that is not accepted in your program, someone's saying, what should you do with these styrofoam pieces that Amazon packs boxes with? And I think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say styrofoam is definitely not accepted in Charleston County's recycling program. I know before COVID, a lot of pack and mail like FedEx and UPS, they would actually take back styrofoam and reuse it. I'm not quite sure if they're still doing that. I kind of need to look into that. But a lot of retail stores and grocery stores have receptacles out front where they accept styrofoam as well as plastic bags and plastic wrap. So that could be another option if you are unable to reuse that styrofoam material.
I think a good point here in those R's is not only trying to reuse, but also trying to reduce in any way you can. I know it's hard with something big like Amazon, but trying to find ways to purchase things that don't require as much packaging. You might have to be a little bit more creative. And then also, I think using your voice as a citizen and as a customer of these businesses and let them know. Be like, hey, I really don't want to be getting this. I know that writing that to Amazon doesn't feel super impactful, but I think that it is important to kind of share your voice in that manner.
Yeah, I read that you can just contact Amazon directly and say, hi, I don't want any plastic in my orders, and maybe they'll respond to you, maybe they won't. I don't think I've tried it myself, but I want to. And I've heard that sometimes that does work to contact them. Sarah, did you have any comment on that?
Unfortunately, Berkeley County doesn't recycle styrofoam. I hate that styrofoam is allowed to put a number on there, to make you think that it is recyclable.
Right.
The issue with styrofoam is that it's like a volume issue. You just think about how much styrofoam it would take to bale, and then the value of that, and the transportation costs to get it places. I would be a proponent of anybody who manufactures an item would have to take it back. I mean, as a local government, we're just kind of stuck with getting, all these materials back. But to me, I'm frustrated that the product manufacturer they're not required to have, a complete life cycle solution for their products. I mean, it's up to the local governments to figure out what to do with electronic scrap, what to do with tires. I mean, what to do with styrofoam, and then the manufacturer of the product is not taking responsibility. So we do what we can, but sometimes our hands are tied, and, the closest styrofoam recycler, I think, is in Atlanta, Georgia. So, I mean, I looked into that, and I mean, that's not, it's not practical for us to do that, to send the styrofoam all the way to Atlanta with the shipping costs. It would actually be more harmful for the environment to do that than to just landfill it. So again, looking into your reducing and reusing if possible.
Yeah, I heard that there are only 2 styrofoam recycling facilities in our country, so just try to avoid it if you can. This next question is, again, I think for you, Sarah. Triana is wondering how to ensure that our recyclables are actually being recycled. In Berkeley County, they said they process it all from the same bin regular trash goes into.
Right. So I've had a tour of the Repower South facility, and it is really neat. All of the trash is being dumped on the floor, and then it's loaded The big stuff is separated out, like the mattresses, the garden hoses, the things that should not go through the recycling facility. And then it goes through a conveyor belt system, and then they pull out the metals first. And then they pull out, they have automated technology to pull out the number 1 PET and the number 2 HDPE. And then, the cardboard by density and the paper, is separated out. Like I said, if it's, clean material, they're able to sell that. Again, recycling doesn't have a lot of the regulations that the other entities do. So basically recycling goes on a free market basis. So whoever, bids for that bale of, HDPE or metal product, of course, we're trying to keep it local if possible. Like, for example, Berkeley County has a contract with Charleston Steel and Metal, for their metal products. So, we're trying to keep it local if possible. But again, the bales and what Repower South does is their decision at that point. They recycle what they can. Again, if there's too much contaminated material, then they would have to send that to the landfill hill. For example, there was a lot of contamination in there as far as, and what I mean by contamination is, like I said, mattresses, garden hoses, any type of furniture, those items could not go through the recycling facility there.
I think this is a good question also for Christina. I think that it popped up later in the Q&A. But someone just said, hey, I'm one of your customers. How do I basically support you? How do I make sure that my recycling gets recycled?
Honestly, it's just kind of following the rules, I would say, making sure that you're recycling right, you're recycling correctly, avoiding contamination. That's the biggest thing to making sure that it gets recycled correctly. There are varying levels of contamination. Some routes have more of what we call dry contamination, which is like maybe some styrofoam, maybe some plastic bags in there. And, while that's it definitely creates processing issues, it's not going to be like truly detrimental, but a lot of our routes have what we call wet contamination, which is like food waste or like dirty diapers, like medical waste, stuff like that. And things like that, if it's severe enough, it could actually contaminate the entire load of recyclables and, require that entire load to be sent to the landfill. So, as a recycler, as a customer, I would just say, do kind of your own education, look on our website, just make sure you familiarize yourself with what's accepted versus not accepted. And that's the best thing you can do to help.
Great, thanks.
So our next question, sorry, I was just trying to see, somebody wanted to ask Sloan about the Fix-It website. She says that it doesn't exist, but that might just be because she misspelled it. So I was trying to see if
she corrected that later. I actually just responded to her. So Fix-It is what MUSC uses for you to schedule pickups if you didn't get it automatically. And I just told her to contact me because there might be some network issues, especially with work from home for that website. But we can kind of deal with that separately.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay. So our next question is from Jessa about cardboard. And she says, I frequently see the cardboard being thrown in the trash as it's being picked up after we've separated it out. How do we prevent that?
Is that MUSC specific?
I think that is just based on what you would see. I'll take a crack at it, and then Sloan, if you have some things to add. But yeah, we've definitely heard that before, where people either think or see it actually happening, that their cardboard is being thrown out. But we do get numbers on that, and we see that a lot. We recycle a lot of the cardboard on MUSC's campus. I think that there's definitely times that someone might not do the right thing that's doing that job, and just definitely letting us know when you do see that, especially if it's a recurring issue. Sometimes it might be someone doesn't even know it was their first day and they did something wrong. We've heard that before, and just, we try to stay on top of it. But I think to keep in mind that we do recycle a ton of cardboard. It's baled and recycled. We see it on the loading docks. So I don't think there's a ton of that happening, but definitely open, and please let me know, me or Sloan, and we can help work that out. Did I miss anything, Sloan?
John, I think you covered it. We have, just a variety of locations on campus where we, collect our cardboard, different dumpsters, compactors. We have a baler at almost every major hospital, large building on campus. Like John said, it gets baled and picked up. But almost like with every stream, there's going to be, opportunities, to collect 100% of a material, and you're just not. It's going to be put, in the wrong compactor. It's going to be put in the landfill compactor or what have you. Sometimes we have cardboard placed in our metal dumpster, Charleston steel and metal. It's just, it really goes back to the individual or the teams, and you're really hoping that the individual and teams are going to place the material in the proper location.
Great, that sounds good. Thanks for that, Sloan. Let me see. I think that's most of the questions that I have. I see one more. I think that there is some news about this, but this is about how to recycle cartons. Christina or Sarah, do you have any information on that? Like a milk carton?
I can speak to our program. We do accept cartons of any type, and we will moving forward at our new facility.
Fantastic.
Interesting. So you're able to separate like the wax on the inside from the cardboard on the outside with the new facility?
So we don't do that at our facility. The remanufacturers would do that. So we just sell them, basically what we do is, or what we will do at the new facility is separate the cartons according to type. So all fiber ones with wax will get baled together and marketed that way. And then the aseptic ones that are layered will get baled that way and sent to a remanufacturer that does have the capacity to do that separation.
Okay. And then I'm wondering about like small pieces of plastic. Like, do you have to put the lids onto bottles? Because I heard that like if something is too small, then it'll like slip through the bales or something.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. We just try to tell people like with plastic caps and lids, leave them on the bottle wherever possible, because the chances of anything that's too small, even if you think about like a really tiny pill bottle or a small plastic cap, it's just too small to get properly sorted. The chances of it falling through the cracks in the processing equipment are pretty high. And if that's the case, it's going to end up as residue and go to the landfill. So again, I think it just goes back to that kind of reduce thing. I mean, if you've got like a pill bottle, I don't know, ask the pharmacist if they can put it in a larger one for you, or maybe like try to reuse that tiny plastic prescription pill bottle instead of putting it in recycling, because the chances of it actually getting recycled are pretty slim. It's just too small.
Yeah.
And choosing bulk options when you can, so like larger containers.
Yeah.
Great. I don't see anything else in the chat. Actually, I have one question for you. Just for myself, I was reading a Posting Career editorial on recycling and the future of recycling, and they were talking a lot about the Charleston County facility. But they were asking, or at the very end, they were recommending, saying maybe something that would be helpful would be a regional recycling authority, perhaps through something like BCD COG. Is that something that Charleston or Berkeley County thinks would be helpful, or any thoughts on that?
I've always thought that a regional recycling facility would make sense, because we've gone from having no recycling facilities in Charleston to I guess this coming month when Charleston County gets theirs up in operation to having two. So, it'd be nice to have more, especially regulations concerning that. For example, in landfills aren't allowed to build within certain distances of each other. I don't know if there could be some type of, plan for that in the future. Like I said, and it would be nice if the counties did work on waste management in general. It works well. I think in the western part of the state, they have several regional planners, and it does work really well. I think maybe because the counties, they're growing so much, they're so big. It's just getting the right people to the right table, and being willing to work on that. So hopefully that will happen in the near future. So,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I got another call at 2. So I have to get on that call at 2:00. I think we were supposed to go until 2. So if there's no more questions kind of pertinent to me or the MUSC program, I'm going to get off this call. But thanks to all the presenters. John, thank you for being a host. And, maybe we could do this on some type of, quarterly or biannual or annual basis, just to try to, as y'all know, any and all education, helps us, right? So the more we can put out there, I think the better off all of our programs will be.
100%. Thank you for joining us. We'll let you go, and thanks for all you do.
Thanks, John. We'll see you, Christina. We'll see you, Sarah.
Bye. Thanks, Sloan.
See you, Rachel.
See ya.
Great. Well, I guess I'll just open it up real quick. Are there any final thoughts from our panelists or anything you guys want to say before we close the session today?
I appreciate the opportunity. I think we've had some great questions. Like Sloan mentioned, we always welcome any opportunity for education. I know things are strange right now with COVID because a large part of our education is doing events and doing, HOA presentations, community presentations, which we really aren't doing right now. So, if anyone has anything virtually that they would, like to host and like to have, recycling education provided, we're certainly happy to do that. But yeah, I think this has been a great opportunity for engagement. So I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks everyone in the audience for tuning in.
Hey guys.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
thank you. Yeah, have a great day.
You too. Bye.